Hi guys, tonight I want to talk a little bit about daily hair care. We got hoodie, sweatshirt weather now, and we're approximately like 80 days from Odessa, which is a hair show here, Texas major here in Texas, and then we're about, I think, 110 days from Fort Worth, if my math's right. And so it's time to start gearing up for some of these Harrod County fairs, Odessa and Fort Worth. I want to talk a little bit tonight about some products, a lot of the products we use on a daily basis, but a question we get a bunch, whether it's on social media or at a clinic, we get the question, what product can I put on my calf's hair to make it grow? And whenever I hear that question, I start addressing it with more constantly washing, drying the calf, what we're putting in the hair. I always equate it back to fitness. There's a lot of proteins to take, but if we don't put in the work and we don't go to the gym, we're not going to see the results we want. It's no different with show cattle. If you wash consistently and dry consistently or work in that hair, there's some products we can use to really help boost it, but that's the ground, that's the foundation we need to start with. So one thing I want to talk about right off bat is a lot of times we back up 90 to 100 days and we're going to start shedding that hair out. If we don't do that, we could grow all this hair and then a month before the show that we want them to look the best, they could shuck it out. So what we try to do is we back up 120 days and we're going to come back 120 days and we're going to start using what I call a shedding comb. And if you want to get close with that, Taylor, but the shedding comb just helps pull that hair out. Now this one's 80 days from his show, so you're going to see we're not going to pull just a bunch of hair out. We've already kind of done that. We're through that process. Brindley's already gone through that. This is all kind of fresh new hair. Down here on this stifle, I think there's just a little dead hair left. And I'll see if I can get some out for you, but you can see it's going to leave the new good growthy hair and it's going to take out kind of that deader hair. And you can see there, just with a few strokes of that comb, it's going to get that dead hair out. Now that's important to start that over. We're trying to get that old dead hair out, but once we've got that calf to kind of this point, we're going to put this down and we're going to get back to washing them every day, sometimes twice a day. But just get you in a schedule, even if you're in volleyball, basketball, some sports, make sure that you find a routine. If you're just washing them 2 or 3 times a week, that's fine. Whatever works in your schedule. These, I think Brindley's been doing, every day, every other day for the most part. And when we get down to those last 60 days, it's probably going to be every day. And so I can't stress enough just washing and blowing. A lot of what we do to really cool that body temperature is we're going to pick up our hose and we're going to rinse this thing or wash them. And then after we're done rinsing the soap out, a lot of times we'll just run water down their back for another 10-15 minutes. And again, we're just cooling that calf down and trying to encourage hair growth. Once we get that calf, once we get them cooled down and we're rinsing them, and we're done rinsing them, we're going to come in and there's a variety of tools that I like to use. Now, the difference between a metal and a plastic, I love the plastic for daily care. The metal we use more just for fitting now. And it's just personal preference, but I think we're a lot less aggressive on that hide. This tends to maybe scratch them a little bit. It can spread ringworm a little bit more. So I like to use and I really like the fluffer comb, but make sure it's plastic. And then there's several combs and we're constantly switching it out. And if you want to pan this way, Taylor, like I've got some I just pick up at, I think we got this one at H-E-B or Walmart. This one we kind of just took a comb and put it on there, just like a woman's hairbrush. But we're constantly using different products just to stimulate hair growth, kind of switch it up. Still hard to beat just a good old rice root brush. If this calf's hair was dry, we're going to come through here and a lot of times we'll brush and comb, switch up from different combs and brushes, and we'll just put a fan on them and we'll brush them till they're dry. And so again, yes, we use a lot of different products, but it's the work that really matters. So one quick thing I want to touch on is dandruff, and that's another question we get a bunch is what can I put on my calf to get the dandruff out? And what I would say is dandruff isn't so much an issue getting it out with a product. The product that I use to get dandruff out is this blower. And I know that kind of sounds funny, but what we like to do is say a lot of times you'll get dandruff up there on the tail head, on their legs down here, on their hocks and stuff. You've got to physically get your blower running, get down here, and you want to keep that tip moving, because if you just hold it in one spot, that's going to get hot and kind of irritate them a little bit. So keep that moving wherever you have that dandruff, and physically you're going to see this air blow that dandruff out of there. That's what gets rid of dandruff. Now, I understand the question. You know, a lot of times people ask.
There we go. Okay, we're back.
Don't move. Sorry about that, guys. So a lot of times the reason we get dandruff is that hide, there's just something wrong with it. It dries out. And when I say dandruff is the enemy, if you have dandruff, don't panic. Every calf that's come through this barn has had dandruff. It's not preventing dandruff. It's when you get it, you got to get it out of there. That hair follicle won't grow. They'll start to rub and it just causes issues. And so get the dandruff out with that blower, but then come back with some sort of conditioning. I really like the Pro Charge. It's a lighter oil for this part of the country. It does a good job of conditioning it. But again, once I put that, say this calf. Okay, we're back. Sorry guys, we're at our new place. This is the first video we shot here, so we're not on Wi-Fi. We're trying to figure things out on the fly. But you can see I've applied some Pro Charge here. Don't move, don't move. I've applied some Pro Charge right here. Now, this product is only as good as what we work it down into the hide, okay? If we come out here and spray this on the calf every day, it's probably going to do more damage than good if we don't get in there and comb and blow and brush this in there, okay? These products are only as good as how hard of work we put into it. So I've got to come in here now with this blower, and I've got to blow that and comb it and work it down to the hide. Because if it just sits up here on the follicle, it's not going to do anything. We still good on the connection?
Yep.
Okay. So again, I can't emphasize enough, dandruff is the enemy. We need to keep that kind of under control. Now, I want to talk a little bit about drying. I think a lot of times where our dandruff comes from is maybe we don't get all the soap out, or we're not getting these cattle all the way dry. In the winter, when it gets cold and dry, the air's dry, a lot of times if we don't get them all the way wet or all the way dry, that wetness kind of sucks some of the moisture out of their hide. And so again, when we're blowing these cattle, we need to blow them down to the hide. This tip kind of needs to be down on the head of cattle. A lot of times, and I've got a new young man working for us, and a lot of times he wants to come up, and when he gets them about 3/4 of the way dry, he's feeling them with his hand, okay? And a lot of times you can't tell if a calf's dry by feeling them with your hand. You've got to get down in here and you've got to physically feel that moisture popping off of them as you're running the blower. That's how I check a calf. I hardly ever run my hands on him and I'm like, okay, he's dry, okay? What I do is I get down here and I almost get my head kind of close where I can feel that air coming off of that calf. And when there's no more moisture hitting my face, or I'll put my hand up here and feel that there's no more moisture hitting my hand, then I know, I do that all over the calf, and then I know I've got them dry. And that's where I think a lot of dandruff comes in. Because until we get that calf dry, it's hard to put product on there. So when I started this, I said, you know, a lot of times kids come to you and they ask you what kind of product we use to help grow hair. We actually use this Pro Hair 100 a bunch. Pro Hair works really good if you put in the work. Okay, so our daily routine right now from this point on, this one's gonna get a bath dang near every day, including probably Christmas Day. I mean, from now till January 5th when he shows, he's gonna get a bath. And we're gonna work that hair. When we get them dry, what I'll do is I'll come in here and I'm gonna make sure this is spraying consistently. But where I think Pro Hair really helps grow hair is if you're doing the work, it's gonna help that hair and hide stay really healthy, okay? So I just want to stress the most important part is what we're doing every day, washing and blowing and brushing. But this is going to help us get, if we add this to the routine we're already doing, it's going to help those results. It's going to help that hide and hair. It's going to make it look healthy, feel healthy. It's going to stand out a little better for us. What we like to do with this Pro Hair 100, and we don't necessarily use this every day, but if we're washing 7 times a week, we're probably putting this on 4 or 5 times a week. And so what we do is we'll just come in here and we're going to put a light coat on them. And I try to get it everywhere. And I probably waste a little product. But if we're going through, you know, rinsing and washing these things every day, I want to make sure we're getting that product in them. Now, a lot of times what people do is they'll want to pick up a blower and blow that in immediately. We need to come in here and kind of comb it in and work that hair in. And so a lot of times what we'll do is we'll just put a butt fan on them, and we'll spend about 10 to 20 minutes just combing and working that product down in there. If we just come in here and start blowing, we're just going to immediately blow that product away and off their hide. So we're just going to kind of let it set a little bit, and I've even let this product kind of stay in them and turn them out. But like a Hereford like this, you can see when it gets wet, it gets just a little kink and a curl to it. So we're going to work this in them a little bit. We're going to let that fan kind of dry it to their hide a little bit naturally. And then we're going to pick up this blower and we're going to come back and really work this that's on the hair follicle and try to work it and dry it to that hair follicle and get it down to that hide. Kind of to summarize again, my Uncle Bob always told me growing up that if I thought I had them dry, to blow for another 30 minutes. A lot of times we come up short getting them all the way dry. Especially in the winter, it's important for their health too. I mean, if we leave their bellies a little wet or their head a little wet, they can start getting some respiratory issues as well. So again, there's a lot of good products out there on the market now, but they only work if you put in they only work if you work. Okay, so I can't encourage you enough. Set you a daily routine and put in the work.